Yes, I think we are live. I'm here with my new friend John. How you doing?
I'm good. Always, bro.
Yeah, you're a nice young man. I think you told me you're 18. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Just turned 18. Yeah,
Living
October 31st. Yeah.
down. Are you in the southern part of the U.S.? Remind me.
Yes, Louisiana. Yep.
Louisiana. Yeah, that's cool. Talk us through before we chit chat. I just want to hear
Yeah.
you talk about your journey to become the bright young man that you are today. You had to go through some ups and downs. You had to learn some things, some hard-won wisdom, perhaps, and all the bumps and bruises along the way. Everything that you're comfortable talking about, just the highlights of the spiritual part of the journey. Do you believe in God? Do you have a faith or philosophy that grounds you? How what is it that shapes your worldview? Talk about all that stuff, emphasizing faith and philosophy.
Yeah, man. So, like, I always grew up in a Christian based home and everything. But it was just the influence of others that deviated me from that path of God. But I always found myself back and realigned it with God's truth because I believe in the law of polarity, right? Like you can't really experience any highs if you haven't been through the lows of life. So it was just the gang violence and all that type of stuff that really deviated me away from God. But that's actually ultimately what brought me closer to Him because it was one night where I feared my life because I thought I was going to get jumped by a bunch of people. And I just went to God and He got me out of the situation. And then that's where my faith really strengthened and our bond really strengthened with God. And it was just the trials and tribulations that life threw at me. And I realized that those were actually presented to me by God to better myself rather than to just deter me from my path. I mean, everything in my life right now was even thrown at me by God. I mean, my arrest, all the suicide attempts, everything like that has all been just stowed upon me by God to strengthen myself and to create the person that I am now. And now that I look back and reflect on that, then I realize that it was just there to build me to who I am today.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. I'm always curious, about family. Do you have siblings? What were the parents like? And you just tell me what you're comfortable telling me, obviously. But I'm curious, what's going on. If you have siblings, did they take a different course from you? What's the sort of overall picture there?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm adopted and I'm Cuban descended originally. My dad was Cuban, birth dad, and me and my siblings. I do have siblings. I never really spoke to them ever before, but we all have different dads with the same mom. I mean, I have an older sister, a younger sister, and a younger brother, but I never seen any of them before.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I'm like I said, I got adopted into a Christian-based home, so I was lucky at that point. I got adopted right out of the womb, and then my older sister was unfortunately more unlucky because she got adopted when she was like of an older age. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole
Okay.
story of that. Yeah.
Okay. Are you very close with your adopted parents?
No, not really.
Okay.
But my sister actually, believe it or not, she texted me like 3 weeks ago,
Okay.
like recently. So yeah.
Ah, cool. Another sort of family question. What's the love life like? Do you have a calling to marriage, do you think? Are you, what's the story with the girls?
Oh, of course, yeah. Very called to married. I mean, my whole entire life was just to create the man that I want to become for the future father and the future dad that I want to be. You know, my habits, and actions always align strictly to becoming that. You know, even when I was going through the bad route of life, everything was just aligned to the person I wanted to become. And now my habits are strictly put forth to becoming, like I said, the best father and husband I could be. But yeah, I mean, marriage is always a big motivator, to have a family in the future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You mentioned the hard times. You actually did time in jail or prison or both or what?
No, I got arrested for a couple of felonies and misdemeanors. It was like a robbery and possession of like guns and drugs and stuff like that. But I got off and with
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did get admitted into a psych unit though. That was later on. It was also to have something to do with that. But yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Do you feel like you're totally mentally stable and grounded and centered now, or are you still working on some psychological stuff?
No, of course, I'm completely grounded now because I have a process and a structure that I go by every day that strengthens me above and past all the desires and temptations that, I once had going down that route before.
Okay. What about puberty was difficult for me because I was not popular with the ladies and this sort of thing, and I was lonely and frustrated. So it was dark for me, and it took me a long time to recover from that. You're only 18, so I mean, from my perspective, it's like you're still going through it. That's how I feel. But
Hmm.
maybe you matured quickly because you had no choice but to mature quickly. I matured very slowly. I'm still maturing. Okay. My adolescence it might be over now, but it took a long time for it to get over. So I'm just wondering, how do you feel about your adolescence, puberty, the hormones, the sex drive? Are you past the worst part of that now, or was it a big factor in your rebellion, your bad behavior?
I mean, I didn't even really pay attention to any of that. I don't really now.
No.
I just believe in high frequency and low frequency,
Okay.
and I don't really bring that into any factors. Like it's either I'm at a low frequency state where I'm desiring sex and all this other type of stuff, drugs, alcohol, or I'm at a high frequency state where I'm far past all those desires and I'm solely focused on my purpose and everything that I should be doing. Like I don't participate in anything throughout the day that's perpetual pleasure chasing.
Mm,
Everything I do is solely focused on my purpose. So if I just have systems and habits and actions that strictly align me to it, then I mean I don't really, like I say, believe in any of that other stuff. But yeah,
yeah.
hormones and stuff, I don't really know, man. I mean, I was a womanizer, even though at like 15, 16, I would sleep around a lot, but even at a young age. And I don't know, like you said, I just learned at an early age. I just transcended self at that age. And
Yeah. Yeah.
now, since I went through the lows, now I know all these highs because I just transcended self and I switched it around.
Nice. Congratulations for that, and keep going. I'm wondering about the circle you used to move in, if you're still in touch or if you cut ties, and if you've heard stories, some friends in jail or dead or addicted to drugs and alcohol, these sorts of things. Not to dwell on the negative, but I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
the old circle, what's happening?
Yeah, no, I completely cut ties. You have to. I mean, because who you hang around is ultimately who you're going to come out to be. Because that's what led me to that path in the first place was hanging around the wrong crowd of people.
Hmm. Today, are you very social, big circle of superficial acquaintances, or do you have a small group of close friends, or are you a complete loner focused on your mission? What's the situation there?
No, I'm extremely outroverted, like or
Ah,
extroverted, whatever. I
ah,
just believe in like more being more high frequency. Like I have a circle. It's just people and entrepreneurs that are either on the same path as me, like the same level, or way exceeded way above the level.
ah.
Like making way more, just way more developed. Obviously, because I'm 18, so it's still a bit juvenile now. So I just get around people like that I want to be in the same position as, and that's pretty much who I hang around.
I saw that I didn't because I don't like to learn too much about my guests before I talk to them because I like to discover on the fly. But I couldn't help but notice there was some boxing in there, and I'm a fan of mixed martial arts in particular, but boxing also to some extent. Can you talk a little bit about athleticism and how that also grounds you and shapes you and disciplines you? And St. Paul in the Bible talks about boxing and other sports as a
Um,
form of discipline. So just talk about the spiritual aspect of that discipline.
Yeah, boxing is originally what saved my life, man. Because it realigned me with the purpose and the athleticism and everything. I feel puts us in flow state, which alleviates us from any like self-limiting beliefs or self-sabotaging that we may partake in. Because we're focused on something greater. We're forward projecting towards something in the future, so we don't have time to pass regress on anything in the past. And that's what saved my life was boxing because it led me towards something greater, even though it seemed m- uh like minimize at the problem at the like even though boxing doesn't seem something like something big, right? But it actually I maximized it because it was what saved my life. It was putting me towards a greater purpose, and that's like I said, what saved me because it's peak physical performance that I most believe in. Because when I woke up off the couch, that's what I went do. I boxed. I ran and I boxed, and then I was so aligned with doing that, I didn't even think about any of the drugs or alcohol that plagued me at that time.
Yeah, yeah. So how many years have you been boxing, and what kind of progress have you had? And do you compete? Is there any kind of like way of measuring your success with the sport itself, or is it a one-on-one man against man inner challenge more?
No, man. Yeah, I've competed. I've competed, and it was just. I mean, that was like the most eye-opening things because it always presented problems and obstacles to overcome. Like I said, even though boxing was something so little, I mean, because I would have had two panic attacks before my first boxing match,
Oh,
and like right before that, even the doctor even was like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop the fight if I see any signs of fatigue."
oh,
So I was like, "Oh crap!" But it ended in 9 seconds. You know, I TKO'd him in 9 seconds because I turned all that fear into anger, and which is not probably not the best thing to do in boxing, but I did, and it worked out.
wow. And how many bouts have you had? And how many are professional? How many non-professional?
No, none are professional. I
Okay.
mean, I've been boxing for I've been boxing since I was 8, right? But
Ah,
I actually joined a boxing gym in like 2020 when COVID was around. So that was the time where I was home trained, but that was the time where I actually joined a boxing gym, and I was like in the top 5 fighters in that gym
ooh.
when I joined because I don't know, it's just outworking everybody, like putting forth so much work on those years alone with myself, it showed. So I was like top 5. And yeah, I had like, let's say 4, but because 2 of them backed out, one of them was at TKO. Then I had another one in like Lafayette Rain, but you couldn't have many because, like I said, COVID was around and they wasn't allowing any of that type of stuff. So yeah.
What about your diet? Are you very, very clean with your food? Or you allowed yourself to cheat? Or are you a secret binge eater? Like, what's the story with food?
No, it depends if I'm bulking or cutting. Like right now, I'm trying to gain like muscle mass,
Okay.
which I don't like, but I eat like 6,000 calories a day. Like I track it, everything, and it
Oh,
actually, yeah, it's not
that's
like
three
six,
times what I eat. Three times what
oh,
I eat.
three. And then when I'm on a cut, I eat like 1,800.
Okay.
It's either I'm eating uncomfortable where it's such a big amount, or I'm eating uncomfortable where it's such a little amount.
Oh, that's
Like I don't
painful.
like, yeah, I don't like just eating like anything like pleasurable, Because
uh,
the reason why I don't like boxing is because I mean not boxing, bulking is because when you eat so much and so many carbs, it's like it blocks like they say it blocks the pineal gland,
oh,
which is like a connection to
your
God,
vision. Yeah, your vision. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Spiritual. Oh,
And the carbs is they say that the carbs block that. And I do feel that. When I have no carbs, I feel way more aligned, full of clarity.
okay. And so why do you bulk and cut, bulk and cut, bulk and cut? Why do you do that?
Because that's what's needed like in the dieting and exercise space if you really want to like build a body, that's pretty much the only way to do it is to bulk and cut, especially if you're a more experienced individual.
Okay. How
Yeah.
much is too much? Because, I don't like a physique that's like bloated, like, who is that famous guy in the UFC? Mark Coleman, that kind of body type. Um, you're young and healthy, you look good. But, if we fast forward 20, 30 years and you're some big blobby fat guy because you bulked up too much, that's not going to look sexy. So, I mean, there's more to life than looking sexy, but you want to be healthy, you want to be balanced. So how much is too much when it comes to muscle?
Right, yeah, people always do that. It's like fat buff and then they think they're like the strongest people on the planet. But I mean, it's whatever you like, I mean, if you're in shape and if you're dieting good and if you're not like overeating or binging on anything, then it's whatever you like, because some people when I cut say I look too skinny when I cut, but that's what I love cutting because I'm so aligned, like I said, full of clarity because I'm not eating as much and I'm working out more and I'm just way more spiritually aligned. So that's what I like more. But no, too much is definitely a thing. When people bulk up too much and they get too much full of pleasure and then they just indulge in pieces and everything and they just live heavy, then yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the real dark side of bodybuilding, there are all the performance enhancing drugs and all that sort of thing. There is a gray area where it's kind of like it's natural stuff and maybe, there is a gray area. So I don't think it's all bad, but there is that danger always of going a little bit too far in the gray area where it becomes dark side. You could have some health problems or you could have some addictions or whatever. I don't know the details, but I've talked actually on my podcast to Boss Rutten, if you know him. He's like UFC world champion heavyweight guy, Boss Rutten, the Dutch guy. But
Okay.
he was addicted to drugs and alcohol. He's quite a big guy. but he's natural. But what do you think about the performance enhancing drugs in sports, boxing, MMA, and these sorts of things?
I mean, I don't really participate in any of that, so I don't really have an opinion on it. Just as long as it's not in like a sport where you're inflicting harm on another human being, like UFC or boxing. I mean, that's just like can be devastating. If you use performance enhancement drugs in boxing, I mean, you're putting somebody's life at risk. I mean, in swimming or whatever, then whatever,
Mm.
But boxing and UFC and combat sports,
Mhm.
especially, probably not.
Yeah. So, do you have any heroes, for lack of a better word? Like I'm up here in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I've got George St. Pierre. We've got some good fighters up here. Um,
Oh yeah.
who was that other guy that I like? And Carlos Newton. I don't know if you know about Carlos Newton. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. But do you have any household names that you look up to in boxing or in combat sports generally?
Not anymore. Ever since I stopped watching like boxing, I just been like watching myself and my content all the time. But if it was no in boxing, I always look it up to like I don't know, like Lomachenko and Mike Tyson. That
Mm.
was were like my top, and Manny Pacquiao. Those were like my top three. And
Ah,
I know you talk about Saint Pierre. I know, yeah, that UFC fighter. I don't watch UFC a lot, but that's one of them I know. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, what's the situation in terms of the more intellectual side? Because yeah, the physical is important, but you have to pray, you have to read, and do you have any kind of community? Is there a church? Do you have a denomination? Are you Christian or are you just a monotheist? What's the whole landscape intellectually and spiritually and with the prayer life?
Yeah, I'm a Christian. I mean, I go, people go to church on Sundays. I do all the time, every Sunday. But sometimes I just always get so focused and like I go to church every single day basically because I'm always helping others and outwardly giving everything I wish to receive internally within myself. So it's pretty much like I'm going every single day.
Mm.
So I'm participating in all that spiritualness, every single day through like my actions and habits. It's not just on Sundays where you go and then, the rest of the week you just eat what you want and do what you want. And then you get completely out of line to that mindset you had after Sunday morning.
Mm. My friend Pick and Choose is here in the live chat. Hello to you. And Daniel Drazinovich, my friend, hi to you. He's got a question for you about your online personal training. What's the story there? What do you offer? What do you do?
Yeah, I do like a mindset training and nutrition. We get on like a Zoom call every week and a custom meal plan and a workout plan. And that's the thing. It's like, so this lady came train with me. She's like in her 50s and, she wanted to like drop body fat. But I was like, there's always a deeper problem. There's always a deeper meaning why people want to get in physical shape because my body is just a byproduct of how I feel. So I'm like, what's the real reason why you want to do this? And she was talking about her. She went deeper into her confidence level and all this stuff. I mean, it's way deeper meaning. Like I got off the phone with somebody that was about to like take their life about 2 days ago, and so I'm like, yeah, it's way deeper than just this fitness level. Like it's life coaching, but the fitness and nutrition is a part of it. So that's my like mid-level program, and my elite level program is it's like where we really dive deep into your vices and addictions. People who are really struggling with all those like suicidal thoughts and alcohol and like very bad binge eating, those addictions that they have. Yeah. And it's like $10 a day, right? And I'm like, bro, you spend more than that at McDonald's every single morning on like a mocha frappe. Like, what are you serious? You're not gonna really invest in yourself in something that can be life changing? Because this is what changed my life. Like what I teach in my program is the exact same habits and actions I use to reconstruct my mindset and change my habits and change my mindset, and then everything else changed. I was addicted to alcohol and everything. They wanted to send me to rehab. When I got admitted into the psych unit, they put me in a special room by itself away from the other people just because they wanted to watch me because of how much alcohol I was consuming. But I was like, no, I didn't take any of that advice. I used my own process and systems, and it worked. And that's what I go on to teach others now.
Yeah, in the spiritual life here in this fallen world, on this side of heaven, we have a spiritual battle, each and every one of us, whether we like to admit it or not. You admit it, but some people are not aware of it or they don't like to talk about it. But the demons are there, they're real. God is there and his good angels are there and the saints are up in heaven. But it's a battle. There's no contest. We know who wins. Jesus Christ on the cross, he defeated Satan. But still, we're still subject to temptation. Like you say, there's a lot of dark stuff. So, how do you talk about this with non-Christians, non-believers, atheists, agnostics, when they come to you and say, "Look, I'm dealing with these inner demons," and then you start talking about Christian themes, and they're like, "Wait, whoa, 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 I'm not Christian," but they admit that they've got the demons. How do you deal with that?
Well, I really just say like it's just your inner conscience. Like everybody has a conscience, no matter what you believe in, But I believe my conscience is the authentic voice of God, in my opinion. But in others' opinion, they believe in whatever,
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if either you saw somebody die right in front of you, or if you fear death, really, truly fear death in your life, like more than once, then you will believe in God. Like that fear will get inflicted in you. That's what happened to me. I stopped believing in Him, and then a life altering event like that happened to me, and then I started believing in him again, because if you see something like that, if you get that fear really inflicted into you, you're not going to ever even consider becoming atheist or whatever, you know. But like I say, I just tell them whatever you believe in, it all connects back to your inner conscience. So just listen deep down within to that and truly seek and be honest and truthful with yourself, just as I was in the mirror.
You know, food, diet, exercise, sunlight. There are many things we could talk about. Water. We could talk about all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But there's sleep. A lot of people don't think about their sleep. Are you healthy in terms of how you sleep, how much you sleep,
Oh
and
man.
how did you figure that one out?
No, no, actually. No, I get up at 2:40 every single morning, and I do my workout and everything. Like I haven't missed an early wake up in like 550 something days going. Like I cannot miss because I have to have my morning process. So sometimes I go to bed at like 12. Sometimes I won't even go to bed. Sometimes I go to bed at like 10, 8. It just depends. And I don't even. I mean, I gain a very good amount of muscle mass and strength. All of these skyrocket even when I don't get sleep.
Okay.
So I just believe in a way like some more spiritual aspect. But yeah, in general, sleep is important, like 8 hours. I know it's not good to preach something that you don't live by,
Yeah.
but I mean, and then
You,
maybe,
what is your
yeah.
average? Like, tell me, just be honest. The past
hmm
year, let's say the past year, if you were to look honestly at your numbers, are you getting 5 hours a night or four or six or
Yeah, I would
what?
say 4 or 5. Yeah,
Okay.
probably 5, because, but it would be like on and off. 5, like I'll go to sleep at 8, wake up at 10, go to sleep at 1, then wake up at like 2:40. But
Okay.
probably like an honest 5. Yeah.
Okay. When's the last time you got a solid 8 hours of sleep? Have you ever had that in this
No,
past
I
year?
I mean I can't remember. No, I can't remember.
No.
Probably.
Is that
There's one time.
yeah.
There's one time, but it's like months ago. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And is this something that maybe you're open-minded enough that maybe in the future, as you get older, that you might
Mm.
settle down into something maybe a more boring lifestyle where you sleep 8 hours a night? Is that something you're open to?
Well, when I'm cutting, I do sleep a lot. Like
Okay.
when I'm cutting, I go to bed early, because when I'm bulking, like eating 6,000 calories a day, like that's a lot of time.
That's a lot of
Yeah,
energy too. It's a lot of
that-
carbs, man.
yeah, and it's a lot of time. I mean, I have no problem passing out at night. I could pass out right now, but it's just I mean, eating 6,000 I'm like up late at night trying to finish my calories. So that's the only thing about it.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
that's the main. Yeah,
This
yeah.
is this is a really delicate question, and you can answer it as delicately as you want. But what about the bowel movement situation? Is that always smooth? Is that always good, or you have problems sometimes?
Yeah, and I mean, people ask me about that all the time, but I'm like, I mean, it's just normal.
Okay.
Like I don't like it's normal. I don't know,
There's
just for
nothing
me, I don't
there's
know if
nothing
genetics
different.
or something.
Okay, you
No,
everything's good with you.
yeah, because I mean, I just know my macros. Like I eat the proper proteins, fats, and carbs, and I don't overdo this or that. It's
It's
just all
balanced.
all set.
It's
Yeah,
balanced. Okay. But some of
right.
your client I'm sure some of your clients have got problems and that's I don't know how you deal with that.
Yeah, well, some of them, I actually, to be honest, I really haven't had any come to me
Okay.
specifically with like bowel movement problems. I mean, when they get sick, they do. When they get sick, they do. But other than that, no.
Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a delicate system. I got to be careful what I eat, but everyone's different too in terms of allergies. Like everyone's got different
Yeah.
allergies and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So what's the plan? Like, what's the plan moving forward? Because you're so, I mean, it's condescending to say it, but you're so young. You got so many years ahead of you, and like you could literally do anything. I'm wondering, not only what your plans are, but what your relationship with money is like spiritually, because we're warned by Jesus in the Bible to be cautious with money. We can't serve God and money, so we have to pick one. And there are lots of examples in history, if you've done any reading, of people that get corrupted by money. You're a bright young man, you're going to make a lot of money. How do you protect yourself from the dangers and the temptations of money, fame, power, these sorts of things? That's a real danger.
Yeah, because and I can't really speak on much of it because I haven't obtained like a very substantial amount of money. But every time when I did like make a lot, like I spent 5,000 last month on mentorships and personal branding, and it really doesn't matter because I attach myself to the actual journey rather than the result. So I don't really like the money is just so I just crush it so much. It's not even like it's so I minimize it right
Yeah.
as much as possible, and I really tie myself to the greater purpose is actually that these people need help, so I don't really care about the money. However, I do need to make a living, right? I mean, I do want to make a living doing this for the rest of my life, continuing my like fitness life coaching business and continue to help as many people as I can. And it always realigns me to my purpose when like they drop the weight and they build the muscle and then they get their confidence and then they write me all this huge paragraph and all this about how much it changed their life.
Mm.
And that's always realigns me with the actual like what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. But yeah, man, like, oh, I could lose all I got scammed. Like money kept coming out of my account actually last month. And I was just
Oh,
like, whatever. Yeah, I mean,
oh.
I didn't even assess the issue yet. Like I'm still not, but I need to though. I need
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Okay, but you're chill. You got a chill relationship. It's not the be all and end all.
it's not. No, not at
Yeah.
all, man. No.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's amazing, the work that you're doing, and it's interesting to see. It will be interesting to watch and see how your career evolves. Do you ever worry that you might become a workaholic because you're very focused, which is good, but
Mhm.
the downside to that is when you get addicted to work. What do you say?
I mean, I don't really pay attention to that. Like I am that. Like I try. That's all I do now, and because it just ties me to my purpose. Anytime I'm doing something that is not that, it always like I always end up doing it. Which is helping people. Like that
Yeah.
is like my work, and I don't even call it work. That's why I do it so much.
Uh,
Like I enjoy it doing it so much. It's like I said, participating in the journey, the actual habits and actions it takes to attain the result, rather than getting the result itself. And it's actually not about getting the result, it's creating the person that can attain it, right? So I'm so
mm.
focused on doing that, and I'm so focused on helping others. Like I said, I don't call it work. Like I can do it like I choose to do it.
What about the whole public speaking aspect? Because most young men would be a little bit shy to come on a podcast with someone they've never met and start talking and fielding questions, all kinds of questions. So where did you learn that? Was that something that you had to struggle with at first and you just got comfortable with it? Have you been on many podcasts? Because I know you're on Podmatch. So
Mhm.
what's the story there? Has that been a rough journey for you or pretty easy?
Yeah, well, I actually not. It was like a year or something ago. I was looking back, like about a week ago. I was looking back at a video, my first speaking video I made. It was horrible. Like, oh my gosh, I was so nervous. Like, I was looking at. I remember recording. It was. I took about 50 takes of that one speaking video. I had to post on my Instagram story. I post so many a day now. It's crazy. But yeah, it's always a struggle at first. Like I was so scared to get on camera, but I was just called by it. Like I feel like God was calling me to do it. So I just over time just kept doing it. And that's the thing. If you want to get better at fighting, you just got to fight more. And if you want to get better at speaking, you just got to speak more on camera. And then now, yeah, I did like, I think 11 podcasts last month. And yeah, so I'm pretty comfortable now on speaking because I know I have a message that changed my life and I know that I have to preach it and share it out there. Like my program saved my life. So why would I not try to tell everybody about it? And that's
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a big old world out there, and your work, I don't know, I'll just call it work for lack of a better word. Your lifestyle involves helping people probably not just in your region, not just in your state, but all over the nation, maybe all over
Hmm.
the world. So the question arises, what about travel? Are you curious to go travel? Do you take vacations and go lay on a beach, or is that too boring for you? Like what is, there's a whole world to explore out there. Or are you going to do that later once you get married?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not even. I'm right now, at least, I'm not interested in any of that. I mean, when we go on vacation, I'm not. I'm just still doing what I normally do. I'm still check. And this is the thing. I was on a phone call with somebody that needed my help like 2 days ago, and he said he was trying to go to a therapist, but the therapist said they're open on only on Tuesday, so they couldn't talk to him. And I'm like, bro,
Mm,
like if I was on vacation and if you called me at 2 in the morning, I would answer the phone. You know, so like I even on vacation, I'll work. It's just, I mean, it doesn't really. And I had clients in India before, and I actually do. I have a good now. He's my good friend. My client, he
uh-huh.
turned into my good friend, and he's in India. So that's what's good
Oh,
about the online thing.
yeah.
I mean, you can reach people way out there.
Wow. That's pretty exciting and cool. So what would like I mean in terms of scale, I'm not a business guy, I'm not interested in business, okay? But I
Yeah.
know I
Right. Right.
know the challenges of scaling up any kind of endeavor, whatever it might be. The thing it's just involves a lot of different challenges. Are you going to stay small or are you ready to tackle the scaling issue? What have you thought about that?
Oh yeah, I'm ready to tackle the scaling issue. That's why I got a mentor and invested all this money in personal branding.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, okay, okay. So are you allowed to talk about that, or is that kind of top secret who you're who's helping you
No,
or
it's Wes Watson. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know this person, but is this
Hmm.
well known or
Yeah, he's pretty well known in like the life coaching space and business. He did a 10-year bid in prison, and he came out and became like one of the most successful entrepreneurs and stuff out there. But yeah, he was my mentor, and yeah, pretty much that.
oh,
Yeah.
cool, cool. So do you have a timeline on that or it's just that you go month by month or day by day or how does that work out? Have you got like
Yeah,
a
well,
plan
yeah,
with him?
actually, it's like monthly, and it's like a that subscription, like 1 month or 3 months or for the whole
Okay.
year. And I did 1 month with him. It actually ended in December 31st. So yeah.
Okay. And so you don't need, from your perspective, you don't need higher education, university degrees, PhD to do what you're doing. You have the tools.
Hmm.
You're just crafting and honing and figuring it out like that, right? So is there a specialty track that maybe you would go from, a general broad service to a more and more specialized, narrow expertise where you can maybe charge more and deal with a more, uh, you know, um, specialized clientele. Are you interested in that, or do you want to keep it sort of like what you're doing now, helping people of all in all kinds of different ways?
Yeah, for right now, it's like the helping people with their mindset, training, nutrition for the mid level, and then just like two programs that one, and then the high level program, like really getting deep into the something that they're really struggling with, like addictions or something. But no, like I mean, if you're talking about something like really niche specific, like
Yeah.
only taking like post pregnancy moms dealing with very busy lives
Mm.
and has two kids and one, something like that, then I mean, yeah, maybe like later on, but I mean, I mean, that is who I'm helping as well. It's just people that want to change their habits and mindset through fitness and nutrition, and just want to have a complete mindset change.
Yeah, but the thing is that a lot of people are tempted to give their services
Hmm.
to the highest bidder, and the highest bidder is the elites, people in Hollywood, elite
Yeah,
athletes.
right, right.
And if you're getting offers from elite athletes, it's kind of hard to turn down the big money. And then what are you leaving behind the moms and the pops who are just regular people? That's a
Hmm.
moral dilemma at that point. Like, am I going to
Oh, it
go
is.
service
Yeah.
the rich and leave behind like the people at the bottom of the pyramid? Those are my people. So have you thought about that aspect?
Yeah, like scaling where you have so many people. I mean, well, when I get to that point, like that's really thinking into the future right now.
Yeah,
If especially for me right now,
yeah,
but right now I just take it day by day and deal with what I have now until I get more.
yeah.
And then later when that does become a problem, then yeah, I'll ask my mentor and everything, how to best handle that because I mean he's mentored, what was it, Todd Herman's son and or no, Chef Hanks or yeah, not Todd
Okay,
Herman.
okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
And then he doesn't leave behind anybody like that. So when I do get to that level, then yeah, I'll definitely figure that out for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Another aspect of sports, especially combat sports, is pain tolerance, There's a lot of pain involved with different sports. Famously, the pro wrestlers, they deal with a lot of pain. MMA people deal with a lot of pain. Boxers, I would imagine, they deal with pain, a
Mhm.
certain amount of pain anyway. Um, and there's a mind over matter psychology and a spirituality. So how do you think about pain in a spiritual way, and how do you rise above your body when it's screaming out to you stop and you just keep going?
Well, my body, this is why physical action is so good because when you push past like the physical and mental aspect, your soul takes over, and that's when you really tap into the higher frequency, or that's when you really tap into God, right? So, like, if you push yourself so hard during a workout, then you really get that enlightenment feeling and you get the clarity and everything that you get after the workout because you push yourself so hard and your soul took over. And that's what I think about pain. It's like it's a beautiful thing because when we're so much more capable of what we think we are, that once we do push past the limits of everything we thought we could do and do everything we couldn't, then that's when we really tap into like a higher frequency and realize that we can do much more.
Yeah, it's amazing the discipline that athletes have. And my I'm not an athlete and certainly not an elite athlete, but my
Yeah.
I'm very weak in many ways, but one of my main weaknesses is cold. I don't like the cold, and I live up in Canada, so go figure.
Mhm.
But I've been contemplating the idea maybe of experimenting with cold showers just to start to train myself. I mean, I'm old now, I'm 53, but it's never too late. I could start with baby steps. But do you do ice baths? Are you able to be very cold, and is that part of a therapeutic training for you?
Yeah, like this is the thing, right? Like I'll get into like I don't ever prime myself for this stuff, but I could get into like a ice cold like water right now,
Oh yeah.
or walk outside shirtless and like ice cold temperatures or whatever. Even though in Louisiana it doesn't really get ice cold, especially like it does. I mean, it gets like 20, maybe 30 degrees, and I'm fine with that. But it doesn't really attach me. For me, at least, it doesn't attach me to it doesn't put me on any higher wavelength or it doesn't raise my
Okay.
frequency or anything. So I don't
Okay.
really do that. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. And then the with the extreme heat, that's another challenge, I guess, just sweating. And do you go into saunas to cut weight or no?
Yeah. When I used to fight, I used to do that to cut weight. Definitely 100%. I mean, I used to spit in the cup and then be completely depleted and all this stuff before the fight and then weigh in and then do the saunas with the suits and all that stuff and run. But yeah,
Uh,
and that's definitely a thing. I mean, I always enjoyed that. That was my
yeah.
favorite part,
Oh
and that
yeah.
was their worst part. My worst part was sparring. I never liked sparring, but
Uh-huh.
and that was their favorite part. It was just weird. I don't know. It was just weird.
Well, there's
But
another
yeah,
aspect, we talked about suffering, sort of the good side of suffering, but there's also injury. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever like broken a finger or, hurt your back or your neck or anything, but it's very common. And I don't know how many surgeries Boss Rutten had. He told me about a few of them, and it's
hmm
nasty. It's nasty. And then when you're older, you feel it more and more. It comes back. Like,
hmm
so I'm just wondering, are you reckless? Are you putting yourself in harm's way and getting injured a lot, or do you take care for that?
yeah. I'm gonna be honest. Like I've been extremely fortunate, and everybody around me is like, "Oh, dude, I broke this or like that." Like I don't think I've broken a bone in my life.
Good.
I mean, except for my left wrist during one of my boxing bouts I had, it still hurts
Oh,
me to this day.
oh,
It like hurts right now when I twist it.
oh.
But that's pretty much the only thing. Yeah, that and I mean I had a bad four wheeler accident. I had to get a couple stitches and stuff, but it wasn't nothing broken. So I was still fortunate to walk out of that.
Yeah, yeah. That's the worst thing is during a fight to have an injury. I always hate to see that,
Oh
but
my gosh, yeah.
yeah. There's in the mixed martial arts community. I don't know if you have it in the boxing training community, but there's this mutual respect for your fellow human being that you're going to combat with. Does that translate at all into the Western boxing scene?
Where say that again?
Well,
Where
there's a
what?
certain respect in the martial arts. There's always the
Oh, okay,
bow,
yeah,
and
yeah, of course,
there's
yeah.
a love and
There is,
respect.
yeah.
There's a love and respect. You mentioned that you hated, you had not hatred, but a certain anger in your first fight, and you said
Yeah.
maybe that's not the best way. So I'm just wondering if there's a philosophical side to boxing where they want mutual respect and love and these sorts of things.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, before the fight, I was showing my respect. During the fight, of course not. I mean, I was cursing him out during the fight. And then after the fight, I hugged him and
Oh,
everything. Because that's the thing about it. Like, you're enemies during the fight. And then after the fight, you're like best friends.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's a huge respect. And it's a huge thing because your coaches tell you to show respect and bow to all the judges and all the sides of the ring. It depends who your coaches are, but yeah, mine did, always before the
Nice.
fight and then after the fight to run over there and handshake the trainers and the fighter and all that. So yeah.
Amazing. So, what are some of the aspects that I haven't covered yet in terms of like, because I come into these interviews unprepared and I didn't really read your
hmm
bio, but I'm sure there are notes of things that you typically get asked. What are some of the bullet points that you'd like to go over and things that you could bring up as topics that we can discuss?
Yeah, man. Well, I pretty much, discussed a lot, but
Yeah.
the things is like, for example, I mean, how waking up or getting into psych ward and all that. And I mean, I already expressed that how going into the room and they wanted to send me to a therapist and a rehab and give me these medications and everything. But
Oh,
what I did was, and they wanted to diagnose me as a sociopath and all this stuff because I
oh,
participated in the actions and habits that actually was sociopathic rather than actually being a sociopath. I never believe in being described as these mental illnesses. I mean, you either participate in the actions that cause you to be like that, because I mean, obviously, I wasn't that, even though they wanted to diagnose me as it, because now I'm becoming a way better human being, and now I'm just participating in the habits and actions that are strictly aligned with a good husband and father.
yeah, amazing. So how many kids do you want to have?
Oh, I don't even know. It just
Whatever
doesn't
happens,
even.
whatever
Yeah,
happens,
whatever
whatever happens.
whatever happens. Yeah, but I would love to have like a daughter, like a little daughter. That would be amazing because the girlfriends that I had in the past always had dad problems.
Hmm.
Like their dad would do this or do that, or they would have what they call daddy issues or something, and then their dad would leave, and then they would have stepdads or something like that, and they would just have horrible dads, and then their dads would be like, "Oh, don't let him do this to you," even though their dad was like a piece of crap and really never was there for them, and then they want them to not bring home the individual that they are, like, so you don't want her to bring home you, basically, so that's the thing. So I would love a daughter to actually like be the best man I can be for her.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very noble. Um, yeah, as you were speaking, I was thinking I had an interesting question for you about the society, the society that we live in today. I don't know if you're too busy to follow politics, but there's a whole thing going on with left versus right, progressives, and the sexual revolution of the late 60s in North America and the Western world generally. It gave rise to all kinds of questions and different liberties with respect to sexuality. And of course, later came a lot of movements for LGBTQ, so called, and whatever. I'm just wondering, when you're navigating through this world, if you could just ignore all of that sort of stuff, like, sexual perversion and the destruction of the family, pornography, all these sorts of things that are attacking
hmm
the family and society, do you just sort of ignore all of that? Or is it something that you are actively engaged with, or are you like fighting to protect families generally, or what's your attitude towards sexual license in Western culture? Because it's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just hey, whatever they got going on, man, it's just they got going on. Like I don't really participate in any of that stuff, so I don't really get involved in it at all. I
Yeah,
tried to get involved in it one time. There was my girl, she was big, she's big into that stuff, the LGBTQ, and I said something like, "Oh, I said something about somebody changing something."
yeah,
And
yeah,
then I
yeah,
said
yeah,
that's
yeah.
depressing. And she got oh my gosh, she got on me, dude. Oh my gosh, she was like the worst. And then and I was like, oh, whatever. I was like, this is BS. Like I'm not even bringing this crap up again. And then ever since then, I just never had an opinion on it. I'm like, okay, they could do whatever.
Yeah,
I don't have an opinion on it. I don't participate in it.
yeah,
So it's whatever.
yeah, yeah,
I just keep winning. I just keep winning in life. I just keep
yeah.
progressing, and I'm not worried about whatever they got going on.
But if
It's
you
whatever.
had a little daughter and she came to you and said, "I want to be a boy," you'd say, "Well, let's have a talk," or what?
Yeah, I'd make sure like the emotions are clear and everything, But I mean, hey, it's I mean things happen, So life happens, but I would make sure everything's clear and maybe give it more time and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, we're the I'm not a parent, but as a parent, you're supposed to be the
Yeah.
primary caregiver, the primary educator, and
Mhm.
you teach your children how to pray. I'm not giving you a lecture here. I'm just saying generally, like this is ideally in society we have strong families that believe in God and that have good values and these sorts of things.
Yeah.
But we haven't
Mhm.
had that. Like I mean, I'm sure we haven't had that because I mean, you come from a broken home, right?
I mean, like, well, the adopted home that I come from is not broken, I mean, I created a broken path, and yeah, there was a time where it was a broken home, but then it's good now, though.
No, but your biological parents, that wasn't like a happy situation, was
Oh
it?
no, it was horrible. Yeah,
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 yeah, that's
no.
what I mean. That's what I mean. So, like, I
Mm,
mean, I don't know how much you know about their situation, but I'm sure it wasn't great. But there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in divorce. I'm Catholic, right? So,
mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have a lot of Catholicism where you are, or I think they have it in Cuba, a little bit of Catholicism in Cuba.
Mm,
But it's the family is very
mm-hmm.
important, and marriage is very important. And I'm sure when you get married, you don't want to get divorced, right? Like I mean, it's like we don't we don't want that.
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah, especially me because if I choose to do something, it's like all in, It's all in. Yeah.
So you got to find yourself a very special lady because you're an intense human being, right? You do know that you know that you realize that you're not your average human being. If you go and talk to your average 18-year-old, I don't think you could really relate to them for the most part because they're going to be on their cell phone or they're going to be playing video
Mm-hmm.
games or talking frivolous talk, whereas you're a little bit more mature, a little bit more maybe evolved spiritually than your average 18-year-old. I think maybe. I don't know. I haven't been hanging out with 18-year-olds, but you tell me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
You
no,
tell
of
me.
course. It's always like that. I mean, they really want to validate themselves with a group of, let's say, 10 people that are down the same path, rather than this one source of like all universal truths and understandings that are really speaking to them. This light, like little light amount, but then these 10 people are like yelling at them to do something that's completely out of a line to where they want to be. They choose it anyway because they validate themselves with that group's opinion. Whereas I really listen deep into my conscience, and I've already listened to the group's opinion once, so I know that that's not the right thing to do. So now I just seek deeper within my conscience and really listen to like the authentic voice of God, that really silent calling. It's not really clarified, but we just have to trust it and go with it. And I've trusted and went with it, and it's led me to where I am now, which is, I mean, a pretty good position, better than any other 18-year-olds I know's position out there. And then that's the thing. It's like there's 30 and 40-year-olds that are have in their mind they're 15, 16. They're still acting like 18-year-old immature, people because they still participate in habits and actions that are not aligned with the body and mind they want to have. They still go drinking at night with their friends. If I try to drink again, the last time I tried to drink, I tried to take my life. So if I become like homicidal, whatever, when I go drinking, so I cannot do that either way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. In our Christian faith, it's based on virtue, but not only the natural virtues, we also have the supernatural virtues of faith, hope, and charity. So I'm just wondering,
Yeah. Hmm.
how do you think about those three in your day-to-day life? I'm not sure that you do actually consciously think about it, but now that I'm asking you, you can think about faith, what do you believe, and how do this gift of faith that you got, how does it benefit you? And then hope, what do you hope for? Like when it comes to death, judgment, heaven, and hell, do you think about those four last things? And then that's when you have hope to go to heaven, right? And then
Hmm.
when you have charity or love, I mean that's the only one that's going to last, because in heaven we're not going to have faith, we're not going to have hope, because it's fulfilled, right, in God. So we're going to enter into the life of God, and God is love, as St. John says. So when you think about faith in your life, when you think about hope in your life, and when you think about love or charity in your life, I mean, I can see all three in you, but I'm just wondering how you think about those three aspects of the theological virtues in your life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I had like faith. So, like you say, I don't really like consciously think about it every day, you know, because all I do is just, follow along my conscience. But yeah, I mean, faith, I've had faith all my life, and I had to have it in God to really trust that path that He had me down. And that's the thing, like people and parents don't like the hard truths, but honestly, you can't really do anything to somebody like me that was on that path to change them or deviate them from it. It's God that has, and you have to have faith in God's plan for them to follow along that path that He has them set out for, no matter how bad it is. Because it was extremely bad for me. I'm like, I'm supposed to be dead right now, but I'm here, preaching. So, I mean, that's a good factor of faith, and then faith, hope. I mean, that's like the same thing. Like, I mean, yeah, I just that's the thing. Like you say, to participate in actions that will lead us to the heaven's gates. And that's another big factor in my life and motivator that encourages me to give my all to others. Because am I the person, and are my habits aligned with strictly with really being accepted at heaven's gates? So, yeah.
Yeah. And God, God is love, and I think that I would say it's natural for humans to love God because he's infinitely lovable. But there are people that struggle with that. They think God is mean, he's a bully in the sky, he doesn't love them, he's, inflicting babies with cancer. And this is the idea. If you talk to a hardened atheist, that's what they'll tell you, all kinds of bad stuff about God. But it's not true.
Hmm.
It's not true. God is love. So I think it's natural to love God, to return God's love, because God is love. But some people struggle with that, and even you and I, we are not fully, completely loving God as we should. So we have to ask for God's help to love Him more, to love Him
Hmm.
better. So how do you access, like, how do you pray, or how do you help yourself to love God better? I mean, it's a difficult question, because God is infinitely lovable, and you should already love Him infinitely. But there's
Hmm.
room for improvement. There's room for improvement. So what's getting in the way of that? Is it love of self? Is it distractions with pleasures? Is it worrying about your business and your money and your things like that, or your next meal? Why don't we love God more? And what can you do? What can I do today to love God better? It's a tough
Yeah, I mean,
question. It's a tough question.
it is, yeah. But there's two things. Like, okay, and I actually learned this. I got taught a lesson by God, this exact lesson yesterday,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'll talk about that right now. Like, it's my ego. So my ego was like running rampant, and I got on this interview with somebody, and he was completely successful in all areas of life, and he called me out on what I was doing wrong, and I was like, oh, dude, I had no idea. Like, I thought I had my ducks in a row, but he exposed something in me that I didn't have aligned, and I was like, God dang, bro, like, you're so right. And then it opened me up to a whole new understanding of these successful people. And I'm like, I'm nobody. Like, I thought I was this person, but I mean, when you really look at it, I mean, you're nobody. And then that's what I had to accept. I'm like, oh, so I need you, God. Like, I really need you to guide me through this life and to really put me on that path. And I have to just trust you with it and keep following down it, because, like I said, like, I'm nobody, and I'm nobody without him. Like, if I keep doing what I'm doing and thinking the way I'm thinking, like I'm this person that's way more elevated and all of these other people, then he's gonna humble me. So, I mean, in humbling, I feel like is thinking of a lesser version of yourself, and nobody should do that. People should think that they're like the best people. Like, people should think, like, I believe, like, I'm better than everybody else. Everybody else should think that they're better than everybody else. But you also have to, like, subconsciously kind of think, I'm nobody without God at the same time. So that's the thing. Letting go of the ego. That is a huge thing. Once you do that, and once you realize that you're nobody in this life, or once you remember that, because we forget. We know this stuff, but we forget it. So when you remember that, then that's a huge, I mean, you just put so much love forth to God, because you're like, I'm nobody without you. And then, yeah, like you said, not being plagued by our own vices and desires. Like, every time when we participate in the pleasurable decisions, God throws them at our life purposefully. So he can test us and see if we're gonna crack or really fall victim to the devil's desires and temptations that he has us on, and or if we're gonna stay strong. And it's like a test of character. It exposes who we are at that moment. So the moment where we're angry, sad, nothing's going our way, that's who our true character is. And is that character aligned with who God wants us to be? And then if it is, and if we do pass that test, then we'll get a substantial amount of clarity, and we'll get ourselves realigned back on the path. But if we're not, then we'll get exposed to the truth that we're not. and then we'll fall victim to the desires, and then we'll feel regret later, and then ultimately regret is our guideline and is our guidance to everything in which we should be. So we have to just realign ourselves, reflect on it, and listen to God and say, okay, God, thank you for exposing my weaknesses. Now I can focus on that.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know this or if you've encountered this definition of humility, but it literally comes from the word for humus, which means the earth or the dirt or whatever. So it's being down to earth. It's being connected with reality. That's what humility is. And that's the same definition for sanity. Someone who's insane is disconnected from reality. And the reality is, I'm a creature. God created me. Every breath I take is thanks to God. That's reality. So humility is is going to involve necessarily is going to involve gratitude for everything, right? Thank you for the
Mhm.
good things that come. Thank you for the sunshine, but also thank you for the rain. Thank you for my health. But when I get sick, thank you for that too, because guess what? That's part of your journey, and nothing happens without God's will. It's like everything that's happened is designed to help you get to heaven and to have maximal happiness and to live with God forever in heaven. What's your picture of heaven? Do you picture it like with well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but how do you picture
Mhm.
heaven? Because a lot of people, I ask this to a lot of my guests, and some of them have different ideas about what heaven's going to be like. Maybe just talk a little bit about what you think it might be like.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know. I just feel like it's like big gates, clouds. It's white. I mean, you get accepted, and I always pictured heaven as like this beautiful like grass plain, and then God's chilling over here, or Jesus is chilling over here, and you got these like huts and shack. I don't even know, bro. It's just weird. And then people are all happy and everything, and I don't know if everybody's naked or not because I mean, obviously, in
Could
Adam
be,
and Eve,
could be, yeah,
and
it could be,
Adam yeah, I mean, you never know, but I picture them having at least a robe on. I don't
yeah.
picture of having Nikes and Jordans and Gucci and stuff like that, but maybe like robes, white robes. So that's pretty much my idea of it.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, we don't know. It's going to be a surprise. I don't know if you've read the Bible much or often or whatever, but it's certainly fascinating. And Saint Paul talks about how he was carried up to the third heaven. I don't know how many layers there are of heaven,
Oh,
but
well, well, that's true.
he
True.
said that he couldn't describe it. He said it just couldn't. There's no words. There are no
Mm-hmm.
words. So it's silly. It's silly for us to speculate, but it's also fun to think about it. And the one thing we can say with certainty is God is good, and heaven is nothing other than entering into the life of God. And you're going to remain John, I'm going to remain David. Hopefully we're going to get there, we're going to see each other, we're going to be happy together forever with God. And my spouse and your family and friends and everyone else, and your future spouse if you get married, God willing. And it's just going to be all good things. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
remain separate from God in some senses, but in another important sense, we're going to become integrated into the life of the Trinity. So I'm just curious, you know, if you believe in the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, why do you believe it? On what basis do you believe it? Is it just faith? Is it because the Bible says so? Is it because your church says so? Or is it an intuition that you have, just sort of a God-given knowledge that God is Father, Son, Holy Spirit? It's one God, but it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit, three
Mm-hmm.
persons.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
believe in the Trinity? And if so, why? On what basis?
I mean, yeah, I do because I was taught it all my life. I mean, like I said, I grew up in a Christian-based home. I always went to church and all of this stuff, like catechism. I mean, so of course I got taught it, and that's what I believe in because this is the thing. Like, I went through these trials and tribulations all my life, and like this was a game changer because I went through all this. I got all the knowledge from my mistakes, like my mistakes being my mentors. So I just got like you can call it the universal truths from failing so much, and then every time that I succeeded, like I was like, oh, okay, so failure is the prerequisite to our success, and we have to go down the bad paths and use it as opportunities for growth and personal development. Like I figured out all this stuff just by reading and reflecting, but then I realized I tied God and Jesus into it, and and the Bible into it, and I figured out that it all tied together, and like what I was saying tied exactly together with what the Bible was saying, and it just like all went and flowed perfectly. And I was like, oh, so all these everything that the Bible's preaching, it is the truth because I just got the knowledge. It feels like God just threw it in my mind, and then now I'm reading it, or now I'm being told it,
Mm.
and it's the exact same thing that I was thinking, or the exact same thing that I went through. So it must be true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's what you said earlier, actually. It's funny because what you said earlier is we already know, we just have to be reminded. It's like, I don't know if you've read philosophy or not, probably not yet, but, Plato,
Aristotle, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Plato and Socrates, they talk about,
Hmm.
education is nothing but a remembering, you know,
Hmm.
it's like we already know. And so, on a certain level, I think that's true. Like I said about knowledge about God, even the atheists know that God is real. They don't like him, but they they know that he's real. They
Hmm.
mischaracterize him, they insult him, but they know that he's real. I don't know if you know this about me, but I was atheist for 25 years. I even became a
Mm.
Satanist at one point. I became a Satanist, and thank God I wasn't into heavy crime and drugs and stuff like that, or I wasn't suicidal or anything. It wasn't very dark, but it was dark. It was cutting myself off from God, who is the source of all that's good. And I came back to God. And so, I can look back now on my atheism and I can sort of see how God was at work. Just like you say about your dark times, you can see God at work there.
Yeah.
And, frankly, we just have to thank God for everything. It's paradoxical, but that's the world we live in. And our first parents, Adam and Eve, they fell from grace. I think it was inevitable that they fall because we're not God, so we're going to make mistakes. We're going to be proud, and these sorts of things. So I think it was inevitable that they fell. But Adam and Eve are in heaven. That's what Christianity teaches. Like they got redeemed. They didn't end up in hell, but some people do. Do you believe in an eternal hell, that some people are going to end up in hell for all eternity?
I mean, yeah, I just feel like something bad is gonna happen if we keep going down the vices and desires that we would still go down. And if we kept our minds kept getting plagued to it, and if we kept participating in everything that destroyed us instead of built us, and we kept succumbing to everything that was bad, then something bad is gonna happen. Like something, I don't know if it's gonna be hell or what, but something bad is gonna happen if we don't realign ourselves on the right path in life, God's truth. If we don't do that, something bad happened to me.
Yeah,
Obviously, like I said, I should be dead right now, but I didn't. Thanks to God, obviously, because He gave me two more chances in life.
yeah.
So now that I realign myself back on the path, I know exactly what I have to do. And I have like abundance amount of clarity. But yeah, I mean, if I went back on that path and never stopped, then I just believe like it would just destroy me. Yeah.
So let's pray. Let's pray for our family and friends who aren't yet on the right path, and remember those who are even your enemies. I don't know if you have enemies, but if you have enemies, we have to love our enemies. We have to wish them well, that they find the right path. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. But I want you to sort of speak to my audience. I have a small audience, but they're a very nice audience. But they're all on different paths, as you can well imagine. Some are Catholic, some are Protestant, some are different. Some are atheist and agnostic. So I'd like you to give a message that will be good for everyone, so that there's something that everyone could take away from just sort of a general message that will give hope in a dark world. So, what would you have to say to anyone that's out there listening now?
Yeah, this is what I said before. I said if you're dead, right? If your parents and your family, or if your friends, the people that you actually care about and love, are looking over you on your deathbed, like, are you happy with the actions and the character you've created? Like mentally, physically, spiritually, all of that, right? Like what you were participating in, did you hold your word to yourself? And were you truly aligned with the man or woman that you were supposed to be? Like, did you check off all the boxes, like in all areas of life? Like I said, mind, body, soul, right? And I always live by this quote, like everything in which we wish to receive within ourselves is what's needed to be given externally onto others, right? So all the positivity that we wish to be received onto us is what we need to give onto everybody else, right? Because ultimately that creates us into the best us we can possibly be, and it deters us from any negative desires, vices, or selfishness that we could possibly partake in, because it makes us selfish, and it actually does make us proud of that person that we are, because we help others out with their problems, and in return we get help out with ours. And then we are proud of, like, I could die right now and I would be extremely proud of the person I've created because I've overcame everything and I created this person and a 10.0 version of myself already. You know, like now, only things missing, of course, is like chasing the money aspect of life. And then like I said, personal development's journey is a never ending journey. But it all just comes down to if you died, like, are you really proud and truly proud of the actions and habits that you partook in? And I like looking at it that way in long view, but I also like looking at it day by day. Like just get up and master the day. You know, just get up and master each and every day, getting 1% better every day. Because, like I say, if you plant those little seeds, they grow over time and they grow into something really big at the end of the year. You just got to work on it day by day.
Nice. Well, on that note, Happy New Year. I forgot to wish you a Happy New Year. It's only the third today, and I'm so happy to meet a bright young man who has a bright future. And I'm always complaining on my podcast, what a loser I am. I didn't do much with my life and whatever, and didn't have kids, and I don't have much of a career. But God loves me, right? That's the consolation. Like it's like I might have failed in many ways, and might be broken and wounded because of whatever, but God loves me, right? So that's the consolation. So anyone that's watching, no matter where you are, if you're successful or not, if you're good looking or not, or whatever it is, God loves you. I think that's a big takeaway too, right?
It is, yeah, of course, and the thing that's the thing, right? You can't reflect on something. Let's just say if you didn't take that opportunity in the past, you can't let that deter you from everything now in the present moment. And that's why, no matter what happened or no matter what will happen, you just still have to create the best you that you can now, so you can live present in the moment because you're proud of your presence and who you are. So now you can live presently every single day, like fulfilled, with God's love because you're not plagued by anything that or any opportunities you may have missed out on in the past or will in the future because you're just solely living in right now.
Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. That's one of my favorite quotes because it says you're free. You're free from the past, and you can start right now. Start right now building your future. So thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you're going to pray for me and mine. I don't know if you're in the habit of praying for people, but please remember me and mine in your prayers if you can. And
Hmm.
you and yours are going to be in my prayers, okay? And I say I enroll each and every one of my guests in a perpetual mass. So in the Catholic Church, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but we do the
Yeah,
mass and their prayers that are said. And so your name's going to be on a list. You and your family are going to be getting a lot of graces from the prayers that are said at the Catholic Mass every day, okay? So try to remember me and mine in your prayers from time to time, or add me to some list somewhere. And
I
I
will.
look forward to talking to you again in the future, okay?
I thank you so much, man. And
God
yeah,
bless
I
you.
mean, thank you, thank you.
Excellent. So anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, yeah, of course I will add into the prayers because I always say my mom's prayers is what saved my life. If she never prayed for me,
Uh,
it would have because that's what Miss Gloria is. Somebody at our church told me. She said somebody must have been praying for you when you was doing all that stuff. I was like, oh, I was like, wow, yeah, my mom was, and that's why I'm still here today. So yeah, for sure, man.
Amazing. So thank you so much. God bless you, and reach out anytime, but we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.